Now, one of the things that's going to become important when you're using the bottle framework is knowing what your working directory is. So when we start dealing with things called static files and templates, we are going to have to create a views folder and a static folder, and we're going to have to put that in what is called your working directory. Basically, this is the directory that Python thinks of as your root. So if you went through the Introduction to Python series that we did, you'll know with the working directory, this is where files will automatically be written to if you're going to be writing to files, or if you're reading from a file, that is where you have to put the file in order for Python to be able to read to it from it. Generally speaking, your working directory is going to be whatever the root directory is for your user. Now, one of the things that you may have to keep in mind when you're using the bottle framework is what your current working directory is. So the current working directory is, for Python, your root directory. Basically, when you go to write a file, by default, this is the folder it is going to be writing that file into. If you're going to be reading from a file, this will be the folder that by default Python is going to try to read from. So this is important in future classes in this particular series because we're going to be talking about things like templates and static files. And when you use templates, you need to create a folder called views, and that has to be in your current working directory. When you're using a static folder, generally that should be in your current working directory. So you need to know where that directory is, and you need to know how to change it. So in order to find the current working directory on your system, we can use this get cwd function and this script to be able to print it out. So import the OS module, print os.get current working directory, and this will print out what your current working directory is. If we go to run this, we then come down here and we can see that it pops out users/Eli. So generally, unless something has been done with your system, your current working directory by default will be the root for your user account. So you log in as user, whatever the root for your account is, that is most likely what Python is going to think the current working directory is. So when you go to write a file, this is where it will be located, or if you're going to be reading from a file, this is where it's going to be located. So if you do not modify the current working directory, you just leave it as it is, then basically you're going to need to put the files and folders that Python is going to need to interact with within this directory that it gives you, which is most likely going to be the root for your user account. Now, one of the things that you may want to do with your scripts is basically make the current working directory whatever directory your script is actually located in, right? So you have a folder, you put your script in there. When you run the script from inside the folder, you want that folder to be the current working directory, so that you can put the views folder right beside the script, you can put the static folder right beside the script, you can put all the files you're going to be reading or writing to in that one particular folder and make life a lot easier and make it a lot more manageable. So you can do that with this particular script right here. So what this is going to do is it's going to change the current working directory for this script. So you can basically put this at the top of your script if you want to, and while the script is running, it will change the working directory for this script to whatever you put here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the os.path dir name, directory name, to basically make the directory, the current working directory, whatever directory the file is located in. So we have the import OS, so this is the OS module. Then we're going to say dir, so this is a variable value, equals os.path directory name. Then here what we're going to do is we're going to say os.path.absolute path. ABS path is the absolute path. Again, one of the things you can run into in the Python world is there's like the path and the absolute path. Most of the time the path is going to be fine, but sometimes it's not. Basically what this makes sure is that it actually gets the true path to your file. Again, if you've been through the Python series, you'll know underscore underscore file underscore underscore. That means this file itself. So basically what we're saying here is get the absolute path to this file itself, and then get the directory name of that, right? And then we're going to do os.change directory, CHDIR, to the directory of the absolute path of this file, and then we're going to simply print it out here. You don't actually have to print it out here, but it might be good for troubleshooting purposes. So this file, this script itself, I've actually put on my desktop, right? So this is not in my user's root folder. This is on my desktop. So when I run this, what we're going to see is now when we come down here, when I get the current working directory, it's going to be users/eli/desktop. So basically I can now put the views folder there, I can put the static folder there, I can put any other files and folders that I might be interacting with that script into the desktop folder, and I don't have to worry about that being in different locations. The other way we can change our current working directory, especially as we're building out a project and trying to figure out exactly what we're trying to do, is by using the workspace functionality within VS Code, right? So if I go over here to my workspaces, my Explorer, you will see that no folder has been opened yet. And so basically when I go to do run, you'll see that my get current working directory is users/Eli. So one of the things that VS Code can do for you is that it can automatically change the current working directory if you've opened the folder up in the workspace. So I can go here to open folder. So you go here for workspaces, you go here to open folder. Then once you've done that, I can just highlight desktop, so that's the folder that my examples are on, and then I just simply do open. Once I've done that, you will now see I have a folder structure on this side. All right, there's change.py, there's example.py, there's a whole bunch of screenshots, there's test.py because it's my desktop and it's kind of ugly. But the important thing now is if I go to do run and I get the current working directory after I've opened up this workspace, we will now see that my current working directory says users/Eli/desktop. So if you open up a workspace, this will change the working directory for when you're running scripts within VS Code. The thing that you have to remember then is when you stop working in VS Code and put this into a production environment, you do have to make sure that you change the current working directory when you do that, or just kind of have to understand how this current working directory goes so that you don't run into a mistake. This is one of the ways, one of the reasons people will say, well, it works on my computer, and then they send it off to another server and it completely fails. This is because on your computer, you opened up this workspace, so the current working directory is set up properly. You send this code off to somewhere else. Either you haven't added the changing directory into the code or something along those lines, and then it fails on the server, and then everybody gets sad. So this should just be a review of how current working directories work, and again, for this particular series, they will actually matter. It didn't matter so much when we were doing the Python series, but now as we start building projects, we do really have to think about where our folders and files going to be located, and making sure Python knows how to get to those files and folders. By doing this very simple script down here to change the working directory to whatever directory the current script is in. This is just a very easy way to make your script portable, right? You create a folder for your script, you put your script in there, plus all the other files or whatever. You basically put this at the top of your script, and then whenever you run your script, it's always going to look within that folder for whatever resources it needs. So that's what we're talking about with changing the working directory and why it's going to be important in Bottle.